Energy is not a distant, mystical force reserved for gurus or sages. It is the very essence of your being, pulsing through every cell, thought, and feeling you experience. When you understand that energy flows where attention goes, you tap into the fundamental principle that governs every aspect of your life. Your thoughts are vibrations, your emotions are frequencies. Together, they form a magnetic field that reaches beyond your body and radiates into the environment, drawing back experiences that match your internal state. Imagine your mind as a powerful spotlight. Wherever you shine that light, you illuminate possibilities, resources, and pathways. If your attention is trained on lack, limitation, or what's missing, you ignite that narrative, bolstering the very circumstances you wish to escape. You inadvertently send out a broadcast that says, "Here is where I am stuck. Here is where I am powerless." And the universe, responding like a mirror, returns reflections of that same story. Conversely, if your focus is on abundance, joy, creativity, and well-being, you generate a magnetic field that beckons those experiences into your life. The universe responds to your vibrational signature, not your desperate pleas. This does not mean that you ignore challenges or pretend that difficulties don't exist. Rather, it asks you to shift your laboratory inward to become the observer of your own chemistry. Notice the thoughts that trigger stress hormones, the replays of past mistakes, the rehearsals of future anxieties. These thoughts unleash cortisol and adrenaline, which hardwire survival circuits in your brain and reinforce the very patterns you wish to change. By contrast, deliberately choosing thoughts that evoke elevated emotions, gratitude for the breath that fills your lungs, excitement for the potential in the present moment, love for the simple fact of your existence, releases dopamine, oxytocin, endorphin. These neurochemicals sculpt new neural pathways, effectively rewiring your mind so that you no longer unconsciously default to fear-based thinking. When you align your internal state with your desired outcomes, you become a vibrational match to what you wish to experience. If you dream of a career marked by creativity, picture yourself already thriving in that role. Feel the satisfaction of creating something meaningful. Hear the applause of colleagues. Sense the calm confidence in your posture. Hold that state long enough and consistently enough that your subconscious mind can no longer distinguish imagination from reality. It then orchestrates events, serendipities, and coincidences that guide you toward your envisioned future. Every moment you spend dwelling on lack is like pouring cold water on that burgeoning flame. Every moment you invest in elevated emotion is like adding oxygen to a fire that burns ever brighter. This principle extends beyond individual achievement into relationships, health, and community. A team united by a shared vision vibrates at a higher frequency than a group fractured by fear and mistrust. A body bathed in stress hormones lacks the resilience to heal. A body bathed in the relaxation response regenerates cells, balances hormones, and fosters well-being. When multiple individuals coagulate into coherence, breathing together, envisioning together, their combined energy field becomes a powerful generator of collective transformation. Yet attention is a finite resource. Each thought you entertain consumes energetic currency. The mind, by design, is drawn to what is familiar, often the pain patterns of the past or the worry scripts of the future. To retrain it, you must consciously interrupt those autopilot loops. You do this through mindfulness practices, breathwork, or simply pausing several times a day to ask, "What am I feeding right now? Is this thought moving me toward what I want, or is it anchoring me to the story I wish to transcend?" In that pause lies the gateway to choice. Choice is an act of personal sovereignty. When you realize that your energy, your most valuable asset, can be directed, you reclaim authorship over your life's narrative. You become the conductor of your internal orchestra, choosing which instruments to play and which melodies to let fade into the background. As you do so with increasing mastery, you'll notice subtle shifts. Relationships that once felt draining now uplift you. Opportunities that once seemed scarce now appear organically. Your body responds with vitality, as if it recognizes that its master has returned. Remember, it is not through force or frenetic effort that you co-create with the infinite intelligence of the field. It is through the quiet, consistent tuning of your internal state, through the unwavering focus on what already is that which you desire to be. And in that spacious, receptive state, becoming a vibrational match is not a pie in this guy concept reserved for spiritual elites. It is a practical neuroscience-backed process by which you align your internal state, your thoughts, emotions, and physiological coherence with the reality you wish to experience. In essence, you don't get what you want, you get what you are. If you are vibrating at the frequency of lack, fear, or desperation, you will magnetize circumstances, people, and opportunities that resonate with those very frequencies. Conversely, when you elevate your inner chemistry to joy, gratitude, and certainty, you become a living antenna broadcasting that signal out into the quantum field, and you begin to draw back to yourself the experiences that harmonize with it. First, consider that every emotion you feel corresponds to a specific neurochemical signature in your brain and body. When you feel fear, your amygdala lights up, cortisol pumps through your blood, and neural pathways strengthen around survival-based narratives. Over time, these pathways become the default highways your mind travels, automatically filtering incoming information through the lens of threat and limitation. On the other hand, when you intentionally cultivate elevated emotions, like appreciation, wonder, or love, you trigger the release of dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and endorphins. These chemicals not only feel good in the moment, but also wire the brain to become more receptive to positive stimuli, creating new neural networks that support optimism, resilience, and creative problem solving. Becoming a vibrational match, then, is about intentionally shifting from one set of neural networks to another. It starts with self-awareness, noticing the subtle whispers of thought that lead to stress or contraction. Perhaps it's the tweak of irritation when someone cuts you off in traffic, or the nagging replay of a past misstep when you sit down to work. These moments are invitations to pause, observe, and redirect. Instead of launching into a spiral of complaint or self-judgment, you interrupt the pattern with a deliberate choice to breathe, to feel, even if it's just for a few seconds, an emotion that lifts you. You might recall a moment of genuine gratitude, feel the warmth in your heart center, or visualize a scene that evokes wonder. By doing so, you introduce a new frequency into your system. Next comes reinforcement through repetition. Just as lifting weights strengthens muscle fibers, repeatedly practicing elevated states ingrains new pathways in the brain. Over days and weeks, what once felt like a forced act, smiling through discomfort, offering appreciation in tension, becomes second nature. Your baseline shifts upward. You no longer need an external reason to feel good. You become the source of your own elevated state. This new baseline serves as your personal calibration. Incoming events are automatically measured against it, and only those that resonate with warmth, possibility, and confidence can lodge themselves in your experience. In parallel, visualization becomes an essential tool. The mind does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. When you repeatedly rehearse your desired reality, seeing it through clear mental imagery, hearing the sounds, sensing the textures, and most importantly, feeling the emotions as if it is happening now, you prime your subconscious to treat that scenario as familiar. Like a ship navigating by the stars, your subconscious mind adjusts your thoughts, decisions, and even your physiology to steer toward that known destination. Synapses fire, gene expression shifts, and you begin to behave in ways that are consistent with your envisioned outcome. You take inspired actions, seize timely opportunities, and maintain the perseverance necessary to see things through. Another critical dimension is the coherence of body and mind. Our modern habit of multitasking, rushing, or living in thinking mode keeps us in a state of fragmentation. Heart rate variability plummets, stress hormones accumulate, and our energetic signal becomes noisy. By contrast, when we synchronize heartbeat and breathing through simple practices like paced breathing, heart-focused meditation, or even rhythmic movement, we generate physiological coherence. This coherence functions like a clear radio transmission, broadcasting a stable, high, vibrational signal into the field. Others can literally feel the difference. You become more magnetic, more persuasive, more attractive in your interactions. Your internal alignment creates an external resonance. Importantly, becoming a vibrational match is not about forcing outcomes or pretending you're already there when you're not. It's about aligning your inner state so completely with your desired reality that the energy of what you want begins to pull you forward naturally. It requires authenticity, acknowledging where you currently stand, owning any fears or doubts, and then choosing to rise above them with deliberate practice. It means honoring your journey and trusting the intelligence of the field to conspire on your behalf, so long as you maintain the frequency of belief, emotion, and coherence that corresponds to your deepest aspirations. As you sustain that alignment, synchronicities multiply, random meetings become catalytic, and doors swing open that once seemed firmly closed. You become the living embodiment of your rewiring the mind and emotions is the foundational practice that transforms far, reaching dreams into tangible reality. At its heart lies the understanding that our brain is not a static organ, but a dynamic, ever-changing landscape of neural pathways and chemical reactions. Every thought, feeling, and memory literally sculpts the structure of your brain through a process called neuroplasticity. By intentionally directing this process, you can dissolve old, limiting patterns and erect new circuits that support empowerment, creativity, and well-being. Begin by recognizing that each emotional state you experience corresponds to specific neurochemicals coursing through your bloodstream. When you relive past regrets or anxiously anticipate potential setbacks, you trigger the release of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. These chemicals flood your system, heighten vigilance, narrow your focus to perceived threats, and reinforce survival-based neural networks. Over time, the brain learns to default to these fear-driven pathways so that without conscious intervention, you will habitually think, feel, and act from a place of contraction. To rewire these patterns, you must first become an observer of your own inner chemistry. Throughout the day, pause several times to scan your body and mind. Notice when tension arises in your shoulders, when your breath becomes shallow, or when a cascade of negative thoughts begins to replay in your head. Label the feeling, "This is anxiety," or "This is self," criticism, and allow yourself a moment of curiosity rather than judgment. Simply witnessing these patterns with compassionate awareness creates a slight neural detour that opens space for choice. Once you've observed a limiting pattern, introduce an intentional shift. One of the most powerful methods is breath-centered practice. By slowing your inhale and exhale to a steady rhythm, perhaps counting 4 seconds in, 4 seconds out, you activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which counterbalances the stress response. This physiological shift immediately alters your brain chemistry, reducing cortisol levels and increasing the release of calming neurotransmitters like GABA. In that brief window of coherence between heart and brain, you have the freedom to choose a more resourceful thought or feeling. Coupling breathwork with focused imagery amplifies the rewiring process. Close your eyes and evoke a scene that stirs genuine gratitude, perhaps the golden light of sunrise spilling across a quiet lake, the laughter of a dear friend, or the simple miracle of a deep, nourishing breath. As you hold that image, allow the corresponding emotion, warmth in the chest, a gentle smile to radiate through your being. This deliberate pairing of elevated thought and emotion floods your neural circuits with dopamine, serotonin, and oxytocin. These feel-good chemicals not only soothe your nervous system in the moment, but also strengthen the new pathways you are creating. Repetition is the key to permanence. Just as practicing scales on a musical instrument ingrains muscle memory in your fingers, consistently rehearsing elevated states locks in new brain wiring. Allocate dedicated time each day. 5 or 10 minutes is sufficient. To sit in stillness, breathe with intention, and immerse yourself in the sensation of the future you wish to inhabit. Use affirmations or power statements that align with your highest potential, such as "I am the embodiment of creativity," or "I trust life to unfold in perfect timing." Speak them slowly, feel their truth, and let their resonance amplify within your neural networks. Beyond individual practice, environment plays a crucial supporting role. Surround yourself with cues that reinforce your new wiring. Uplifting music that stirs inspiration, artwork that evokes wonder, plants that breathe life into your workspace. Even the layout of a room can influence emotional tones. Spaces that are clean, bright, and uncluttered tend to promote calm focus and creative flow. By curating an external environment that mirrors the internal state you are cultivating, you create multiple layers of positive reinforcement. Furthermore, the stories you tell yourself, your internal dialogue, must be reshaped. Notice habitual self-talk that undermines your confidence. "I'm not good enough," "I'll never succeed," or "What if I fail?" Each of these statements acts like a closed circuit, looping back into stress and self-doubt. Replace them with questions that open pathways. What if I am more capable than I imagine? Or what evidence is there that I can learn and grow? These questions stimulate prefrontal cortex activity, inviting problem solving and curiosity rather than reactivity. Lastly, integrate movement and embodiment into your rewiring regimen. The simplest yoga flow, a brisk walk in nature, or even gentle stretching sends proprioceptive feedback to the brain, fostering mind-body coherence. When your body moves in alignment with your breath and intention, you broadcast a holistic signal of vitality and possibility to the quantum field. Each cell in your body resonates with the new patterns you are installing, accelerating the evolution of your entire system into higher levels of health, clarity, and creative expression. Living as if your desired reality is already unfolding is a radical act of intention that rewires your brain. reshapes your identity, and accelerates your journey toward actualizing your deepest aspirations. When you choose to occupy the state of already having arrived, you bypass the internal conflict between where you are and where you want to be. Instead of pushing against perceived limitations, you draw from an infinite well of possibility, embodying the energy, thoughts, and feelings of your future self in the present moment. Begin by clarifying the essence of your desired reality. What does it feel like when you've achieved your goal? What thoughts run through your mind? What physical sensations arise in your body? For instance, if you envision yourself leading a thriving creative team, notice how your posture shifts when you stand in that role. Your shoulders relax, your gaze softens, your voice carries confidence. Recognize the tone of voice you use, the vocabulary you choose, the rhythm of your breathing. The more vivid and detailed your inner movie, the more powerfully your subconscious mind will treat it as a living blueprint. With this imagery in place, engage in daily future self-rehearsals. Set aside intentional moments, perhaps first thing upon waking or in the stillness before sleep, to close your eyes and step into your future persona. Feel the clothes you wear, hear the applause or the quiet satisfaction of a job well done. Experience the ease of decision-making that comes from operating from aligned clarity. Immerse fully, see, hear, touch, taste, smell, and most importantly, feel the emotions that accompany that reality. This sensory, rich practice not only ignites the pleasure centers in your brain, but also strengthens the neural circuitry that translates thought into action. As you practice, notice how your energy shifts. The person you imagine radiates a different vibration, calm assurance rather than anxious striving, gratitude rather than longing. That energetic frequency becomes your internal signature. When you carry it into your daily life, you begin to behave in ways that are consistent with your future self's choices. You prioritize tasks differently. You speak to others with compassion and vision. You trust your intuition to guide you toward opportunities. Over time, these small, seemingly insignificant actions compound into profound transformation. A critical component of living as if is decision making from the vantage point of your future self. Ask yourself in each moment, what would the person I'm becoming choose to do now? If an unhelpful thought arises, doubt, self, criticism, fear, pause and imagine your future self gently redirecting your mind toward possibility. If a tempting distraction surfaces, procrastination on a crucial project, an impulse purchase, a conversation that wedges you into negativity, remember that your future self operates from a place of intentionality and restraint, choosing only what aligns with the overarching vision. Surround yourself with environmental cues that reinforce your new identity. Post affirmations where you can see them, play music that stirs inspiration, dress in a way that reflects the status and confidence you're cultivating. These external reminders act as anchors, prompting you to return to the elevated state you rehearsed in meditation. Each time you respond to a cue by embodying your future self, you're laying down a stronger track in the neural network that holds that identity. Equally important is the practice of gratitude for what is already present. Living as if it's done is not about ignoring current challenges. It's about acknowledging them while simultaneously celebrating the progress and resources you have now. Express gratitude for the insights you've gained, the support of colleagues or loved ones, the small wins that illuminate your forward momentum. This balanced stance dissolves the tension between not enough and already here, creating a fertile field for new possibilities to emerge. Movement and embodiment deepen the process. When you rehearse your future reality, stand up, breathe fully, and allow your body to move in ways that signal confidence and openness. Even a simple power pose held for a few breaths can shift hormone levels, raising testosterone, lowering cortisol, and reinforce the physiological state of your future self. As your body aligns with your vision, your mind naturally follows. Finally, remember that consistency builds momentum. Moments of doubt are inevitable, but they do not define your trajectory. Each time you catch yourself returning to old stories, swiftly bring your focus back to living as if the outcome is already in motion. With each repetition, your brain rewires, your emotions recalibrate, and your life begins to mirror the reality you have so vividly embodied. Surrendering to the field is not an act of weakness or passivity, but a demonstration of profound trust in the intelligence that underlies all creation. When you attempt to control every detail of your life, every outcome, every timing, every interaction, you engage the parts of your brain wired for survival, for fight or flight, for narrowing possibilities into a tiny corridor of what must happen. This contraction constricts your energy and limits the creative potential that lives in the spacious unknown between what is and what could be. By contrast, when you learn to relax into the field, to release the need for control and allow the infinite intelligence of the quantum matrix to orchestrate events, you open yourself to a symphony of possibilities far greater than any you could micromanage on your own. Think of the field as an invisible ocean of energy and information. Everything you've ever imagined, every idea that has ever been conceived, exists in superposition here. Simultaneously, all possibilities, waiting for a wave of your attention and intention to collapse them into form. When you try to control rather than surrender, you put up barriers that reflect back rigidity, resistance, and frustration. You are like a surfer trying to dominate the wave instead of riding it. In surrender, you become the surfer who lets the wave guide your path, who senses the right moment to stand, to shift weight, to flow with the energy rather than battle it. The first step towards surrender is cultivating inner coherence. Coherence refers to the harmonious alignment of your thoughts, emotions, and body rhythms. Your heart, brain, and breath functioning as a unified system. Incoherence, in which stress and scattered thinking prevail, creates noise that drowns out the subtle impulses of the field. When you breathe with intentions, lowering your inhalations and exhalations into a steady, rhythmic pattern, you bring your heart rate variability into a balanced state, you calm the amygdala, and you foster prefrontal cortex activity. In this state of coherence, you shift from a reactive stance to a receptive one, allowing intuitive insights, creative solutions, and serendipitous nudges to surface. This doesn't mean you relinquish all personal responsibility or cease taking inspired action. On the contrary, surrender amplifies your capacity to act in alignment with higher purpose. You become attuned to micro moments in which a thought, a feeling, or an external cue carries a surge of resonance, an invitation to move, to speak, to create. Rather than forcing your way through obstacles by sheer willpower, you learn to follow the breadcrumbs laid by your own energy field. Doors that once felt locked begin to open almost magically, and what once required frantic pushing now unfolds with elegant ease. A critical component of surrender is letting go of attachment to specific outcomes. Attachment locks your consciousness onto a singular vision of success, constricting the flow of creativity to a narrow channel. When you hold an outcome lightly, valuing the intention more than the specific form it takes, you engage the field's greater wisdom. You allow the possibility that something even more aligned, more expansive, or more timely can emerge. This requires courage because it entails relinquishing the illusion of certainty for the embrace of a larger unknown, Yet it is precisely in this unknown that quantum potential thrives. Trust is the currency of surrender. To develop trust, practice small acts of letting go throughout your day. Perhaps you write down an intention, an idea for a project, a vision for a relationship, but instead of mentally gripping it, you place the paper somewhere visible and let it rest there, separate from your identity. Observe whether you feel anxious about it, fading away, or whether you can allow it to breathe on its own. Notice how the more you practice this, the less need you have to mentally replay scenarios, to overplan, or to pressure yourself into premature action. Surrender also encompasses gratitude for what already is. By shifting your gaze to appreciate present blessings, even in the midst of uncertainty, you generate a vibrational field of openness. Gratitude signals to the quantum matrix that you acknowledge the abundance inherent in this moment, which in turn attracts further reasons to feel blessed. This cycle of appreciation and attraction becomes a self-reinforcing loop that amplifies your capacity to let go and receive. Lastly, recognize that surrender is a practice, not a one-time event. You will oscillate between control and release. Each time you catch yourself gripping reality too tightly, gently guide yourself back to coherence. Breathe, observe, trust. Over time, your default orientation will shift from holding on to flowing with, and life will mirror that shift by presenting opportunities you could never have scripted. In the fluid dance between intention and allowance, your role is to set the direction with clarity and passion, then relax into the field's embrace, letting the infinite intelligence at play choreograph the unfolding of your dreams with precision and grace.